Welcome back to the deep dive. We're all about feeding that curiosity, cutting through the jargon, and getting straight to the point on complex stuff.
Yeah, helping you get those aha moments a bit faster.
Exactly. And today we are peeling back the layers on something that's always working in the background of our digital lives, often unseen until, well, disaster strikes.
Right, cybersecurity threats and attacks.
It feels like such a dense technical area.
It can be, definitely, full of jargon, but, understanding why it's critical and what the real risks are,
Mm-hmm.
that's not just for the IT folks anymore. It really affects everyone.
So
Our
true.
goal here is just to boil down the essentials, point out the genuine weak spots, and give you the insights needed, for navigating this digital world we're all in.
Okay, let's unpack this then, starting right at the beginning. When we talk cybersecurity, what exactly are we trying to protect? What's the core mission?
Well, at its most basic, cybersecurity is the practice of protecting an organization's IT systems, its infrastructure, and its critical data from bad actors.
Right, the attackers.
Exactly. And it's not just about, say, setting up a firewall.
Mhm.
It's much bigger. It involves technology, yes, but also solid processes and really understood best practices.
A whole strategy.
Precisely.
Mm.
The main goal is managing risk, and you do that by securing and boosting those three key pillars: confidentiality, data integrity, and availability.
Ah, the classic CIA triad. We hear those terms thrown around a lot, but what does it actually mean if one of them gets, compromised?
Good question. So confidentiality, that's about making sure only authorized people see sensitive information. If that gets breached,
Yeah.
well, your secrets are out.
Okay.
Then data integrity. That means ensuring the information is accurate, that it hasn't been messed with. Imagine if financial records were suddenly changed. Big problem.
Huge problem.
And availability, that's simply making sure the systems and data are actually working and accessible when legitimate users need them. A denial of service attack, for instance, hits availability hard, shuts things down.
So if any one of those fails,
The whole thing can start to crumble. It can lead to, honestly, real-world devastation for an organization.
and that real world impact, it goes way beyond just the tech side, doesn't it? We're
Right.
talking serious money lost, obviously, but also things you can't easily put a price on.
Absolutely. Reputation damage, huge disruptions to just getting work done, impacting how you deal with customers, vendors, partners. It's a major shock to the system.
So when the top brass, the executives, are worrying about security, what keeps them up at night?
Well, they tend to focus on the really high-stakes stuff. First off, data breaches. That's when information gets accessed or stolen without permission.
Like ransomware?
Exactly.
Oh,
Ransomware locking everything up, or phishing scams, tricking people into giving up passwords, or even just, weak passwords being guessed, all lead to data breaches.
got it.
Then you have service disruptions. These are basically unplanned outages making systems unusable. Think of a massive DDoS attack flooding the network so no one can get through, or malware taking down essential services.
Grinding everything to a halt.
And third, a big one is compliance risk. Failing to meet regulations like I pay for health data or GDPR for privacy. That can mean huge fines, serious penalties. It's not just a warning.
It really sounds like organizations need to be constantly on their toes. It's not a one and done thing, is it?
Not at all. It's like a continuous arms race, constantly adapting to new threats.
Okay, this is where it gets really fascinating for me. The human side of it. Who are these threat agents? Who are the actual people or groups behind these attacks?
Right, these are basically the individuals or teams who build the malicious software and actually do the attacking. And they nearly always have a specific goal.
Like what?
Could be money, plain and simple, or maybe disrupting a rival company, or even just destroying data for political reasons or ideology. Understanding why they do it helps predict how they might attack.
And there are different flavors of these attackers, aren't there?
Oh, yeah. You have the broad category: attacker, threat actor, sometimes just hacker. That covers a lot, from lone wolves to organized crime rings, even those really sophisticated advanced persistent threats, or APTs.
APTs, those sound serious.
They are. Often state-sponsored, very patient, very well-funded. Their goals can be anything from stealing trade secrets to spying on governments.
Which brings us to another type, government-sponsored or state-sponsored actors.
Exactly. Funded by nations. Their main goal usually isn't quick cash, it's espionage. Stealing intellectual property, classified government info, details about critical infrastructure, things that give their country an edge. They play the long game.
And then there's the one that maybe feels the most uncomfortable? The insiders.
Yeah, that's a tough one. These are current or former employees, maybe contractors, who either turned malicious or were perhaps planted inside.
And what makes them so dangerous?
Access.
Yeah.
They're already inside the castle walls, so to speak. They know the systems, the procedures, the weaknesses. They can often bypass a lot of the external security controls because they have legitimate credentials and trust.
That's quite chilling.
It really raises the point that, the motivation and the level of access an attacker has drastically changes their methods and how much damage they can potentially cause. A random hacker might use common tools for quick gain.
While an insider or a state actor can be much more targeted and destructive.
Precisely. They can leverage inside knowledge or huge resources for much more subtle, damaging attacks.
Okay, so we've got the who. Now let's dive into the how, the actual weapons in their arsenal. You mentioned different categories. Network, application, host.
Right. Let's start with network-based attacks. These go after the core network infrastructure, the switches, routers, servers that connect everything.
Like DDoS.
Exactly. Denial of service, that bigger sibling. Distributed denial of service, DDoS. It's like causing a massive traffic jam on the internet highway leading to a specific website or service.
So legitimate users can't get through.
Correct. They flood the target with so much junk traffic it just gets overwhelmed and becomes unavailable.
What else happens at the network level?
There's the man-in-the-middle, MITM, attack. Imagine someone secretly intercepting the mail between you and your bank, reading it, maybe even changing it before passing it on.
Okay, I see.
In the digital world, an attacker inserts themselves between two communicating parties. Say, you and your online banking site listening in, maybe stealing passwords or altering transactions, often without either side knowing.
Sneaky.
Very. And then there's spoofing. This is basically impersonation, like pretending to be someone else to get access.
How does that work online?
A common one is DNS spoofing. Your computer uses the domain name system, DNS, to find the numerical IP address for a website name like mybank.com. DNS spoofing means an attacker poisons that system, so when you type mybank.com, you get sent to a fake site they control, even though the address looks right.
And then they grab your login details.
Exactly. Or trick you into downloading malware. And, of course, we have to mention ransomware here, too. While it's malware, it often spreads across networks, locking up systems and data.
Holding it hostage for crypto payment, usually. A nightmare scenario.
Absolutely. Now, moving up a layer, we have application-based attacks. These target software applications directly think websites, databases, custom programs.
Like SQL injection, I've heard of that.
Right. Structured query language, SQL injection is a big one. Imagine a website has a login form. An attacker can sometimes enter malicious SQL code into that form instead of a normal username.
And that code talks to the database.
It can trick the database into doing things it shouldn't, like dumping sensitive data usernames, passwords, credit card numbers, or even giving the attacker control. It's like finding a secret command to open the vault.
Wow. Okay, what else?
There's cross-site scripting, or XSS. This is a bit different. The attacker injects malicious code into a legitimate website. But the code doesn't attack the website itself. It attacks the users who visit that site. When your browser runs the malicious script hidden on the page, it can steal your session cookies, log your keystrokes, redirect you, essentially compromising your interaction with the site.
So the website itself becomes the weapon against its own users.
In a way, yes. And we also have mobile code under this category, essentially viruses, software designed to spread. A tricky type is a polymorphic virus.
Polymorphic, like shape-shifting.
Kind of. It changes its own code slightly each time it replicates, making it harder for antivirus software, which often looks for specific signatures, to detect it. It keeps changing its disguise.
Clever in a nasty way. Okay, so we've done network applications.
Yep.
What about attacks on our actual devices? Laptops, phones?
Right, host-based attacks.
Yeah.
These target individual endpoints. Common ones include brute force attacks.
Trying every password combination.
Pretty much. Automated software just hammers away, guessing username and password combinations at high speed until it gets lucky. It's often effective against weak passwords.
Makes sense to use strong, unique passwords then.
Absolutely crucial. Another host-based threat is keystroke logging, or keyloggers. This is malware that secretly records everything you type, usernames, passwords, bank details, private messages.
How does that get on your computer?
Often hidden in other downloads or delivered via phishing emails, it runs silently in the background.
And all these nasty programs, ransomware, viruses, keyloggers, they all fall under the big umbrella of
Malware, short for malicious software. It's the catch-all term for any software designed to harm or exploit a system or its user without consent. Viruses, worms, Trojans, ransomware, spyware. They're all types of malware.
Got it. Now, what about attacks that don't necessarily rely on complex code, but more on tricking people?
Yes. Social engineering attacks. This is a really important category because it exploits human psychology rather than just technical flaws. It's about manipulation and deception.
Playing on trust or fear?
Exactly. The most common example is phishing. You get an email or message that looks legitimate, maybe from your bank or HR department or a known brand trying to trick you into clicking a bad link, downloading malware, or giving up sensitive information.
And they can look really convincing.
They can. A more targeted version is spear phishing. Instead of a generic blast, the attacker researches a specific individual or group within an organization and crafts a personalized message, maybe pretending to be their boss or a colleague. Much harder to spot.
Okay, that's worrying.
Then there's business email compromise, BEC, sometimes called whaling, that targets senior executives.
Whaling. Like Moby Dick.
Huh? Yeah, going after the big fish. It's sophisticated phishing, often impersonating the CEO or CFO, maybe instructing someone in finance to urgently wire money to a fraudulent account or send over sensitive employee data.
Because who's going to question an urgent request from the boss?
Precisely. They leverage authority and urgency. And outside the corporate world, but still using deception, is catfishing.
Creating fake online profiles.
Yeah. Building a fake persona to lure someone into an online relationship, usually romantic, with the ultimate goal of asking for money, gifts, or maybe tricking them into revealing compromising information. They exploit emotional connection.
It's fascinating and kind of scary how these attacks really bypass the technology and go straight for human vulnerabilities.
It often works because people are inherently trusting, or they act quickly when feeling pressured or emotional. A well-crafted social engineering attempt can sometimes walk right past millions of dollars worth of technical security.
We also need to remember it's not all digital, right? There are physical threats, too.
Definitely. Physical or on-premises attacks are still a thing. Someone physically getting their hands on equipment or data.
Like sneaking into an office.
That's one way, maybe through piggybacking, just following an authorized person through a secure door before it closes. Or even simpler, theft of discarded equipment.
Dumpster diving for old hard drives.
Exactly. If old computers, drives, or USB sticks aren't properly wiped or destroyed, they can be a goldmine of sensitive data for anyone willing to look. Low tech, potentially high reward.
And lastly, you mentioned supply chain attacks. How do those work?
These are complex and potentially devastating. They target the relationships between organizations, the supply chain. Instead of attacking you directly, they attack one of your trusted suppliers or partners to gain access to your systems.
Wow, okay. How?
A couple of examples. Pre-installed malware on hardware. Imagine buying new servers or even USB drives, and they come with malware already hidden on them by someone who compromised the manufacturer or distributor. You plug it in, and you're infected.
That's insidious.
It is. Another method is a watering hole attack. Attackers figure out websites that people in a specific industry or company frequently visit, maybe a trade news site or a supplier portal. They then compromise that third-party site and infect it with malware, waiting for their targets to visit and get infected.
So you get infected just by visiting a site you normally trust.
Precisely. It really highlights how interconnected everything is. An attack on one company can ripple through its entire network of customers, vendors, and partners. Nobody's truly isolated.
Okay, so we have the who and the how. But how does an actual attack play out? Is it just one quick hit, or is there a process?
It's almost always a process, often quite methodical. Think of it like a blueprint. While the specifics vary, there are common stages.
What's first?
Reconnaissance. This is the homework phase. Attackers gather intel on their target network structure, software used, security systems, maybe even employee names and roles from LinkedIn or company websites. They're looking for weak spots, open doors.
Scouting the target.
Exactly. Once they have enough info and identify a potential way in, they move to gaining access. This is the actual breach, using an exploit, a stolen password, phishing, whatever works, to get inside the network or system.
Okay, they're in. What next?
Often, escalation of privileges. They might get in with low-level access, but they want more power. So they try to gain higher privileges, maybe becoming an administrator, to get deeper control.
So they can move around more freely.
Right. And then they focus on maintaining access. They don't want to get kicked out. They might install backdoors, create hidden accounts, or use other techniques to make sure they can stay in the system long-term, undetected if possible.
Lying low.
For a while, perhaps, until they reach the main goal, network exploitation and exfiltration. This is the payoff. Stealing the data, deploying ransomware, sabotaging systems, whatever their objective was.
And then they just leave.
Well, the smart ones try to clean up after themselves. The final stage is often covering tracks. They'll try to delete logs, disable auditing, remove any tools or files they used, basically erasing evidence of their presence to hinder investigation and maybe avoid detection altogether.
It really sounds like a planned campaign, not just random hacking. Very systematic.
Sophisticated attacks definitely are, patient, methodical, and professional in their own way.
Now, the digital world never stands still, does it? We've got cloud computing, ubiquitous mobile devices, the Internet of Things. How do these newer technologies change the game, create new risks?
Great question. They absolutely introduce new challenges. Let's take cloud computing. Using services like AWS or Azure, where data and applications live on someone else's servers.
Yeah, everyone's moving to the cloud, it seems.
And interestingly, cloud providers often have very strong security, arguably better than many individual companies could manage themselves. They have huge resources, dedicated teams, strict compliance requirements like SOC 2.
So, counterintuitively, the cloud can be more secure.
In many ways, yes, but it introduces different types of risks. For example, loss of control visibility. You don't own the hardware, you don't manage the underlying infrastructure directly, you rely on the provider for security of the cloud, but security in the cloud, how you configure your services, manage access that's still on you.
Ah, the shared responsibility model.
Exactly. There's also additional industry exposure. Your data might be sitting on the same physical infrastructure as data from companies in completely different sectors, potentially exposing you indirectly to threats targeting them. And compliance violations are a risk if the cloud provider doesn't meet the specific regulations your industry requires.
Okay, that makes sense. What about all our phones and tablets? Mobile technologies.
Huge area of risk. We carry these powerful computers everywhere, connecting to all sorts of networks. Key risks include lack of encryption while we use passcodes. The data stored on the device itself might not always be fully encrypted by default, making it vulnerable if the device is lost or stolen and the passcode bypassed.
Right.
Then there's the constant use of unsecured Wi-Fi networks. Public Wi-Fi in cafes, airports. It's convenient, but often wide open for attackers to snoop on your traffic or trick you into connecting to a malicious hotspot.
Easy picking sometimes.
And location tracking. GPS is useful, but it can also be exploited by attackers to track movements, plan physical attacks, or tailor social engineering scams based on where you are or where you've been.
Hmm. And the final frontier, the Internet of Things, IoT. Smart everything. Thermostats, cameras, fridges.
Yeah, all those connected devices dramatically expand a company's or even a home's digital footprint, creating many more potential entry points.
What are the main dangers there?
A big one is device mismanagement. Many IoT devices ship with default passwords that users never change or have very weak security settings. They become easy targets.
Like that story about the hacked fish tank thermometer.
Exactly. That's a perfect example. Another issue is outdated firmware. The basic software embedded in these devices often isn't updated regularly, if ever, leaving known vulnerabilities unpatched for years.
And people bring their personal smartwatches or fitness trackers into the office network.
And suddenly you have these potentially vulnerable, unmanaged devices connected to the corporate network, completely bypassing IT security checks. It definitely widens the attack surface without anyone realizing.
So, with all these threats, actors, methods, and evolving technologies, what can organizations actually do? How do they get ahead of this instead of just cleaning up messes?
That's where something called threat modeling comes in. It's about being proactive.
Okay, what is threat modeling exactly?
It's basically a structured process to identify potential threats, analyze the vulnerabilities they could exploit, and then figure out ways to mitigate those threats before an attack happens. The goal is to understand all the risks and build in defenses from the start, or improve existing ones.
So, trying to think like an attacker.
In a way, yes. You have to understand the threat landscape, that whole universe of potential threats, which, as we've discussed, is constantly changing. Threat modeling helps you map that landscape as it applies to your specific systems or applications.
How does it work in practice? Are there steps?
Generally, yes. You start by identifying assets. What are the valuable things you need to protect? Data, systems, reputation. Then you identify threats, who might attack you, insiders, hackers, state actors, and how might they do it? Phishing, malware, exploiting a specific vulnerability. Then you analyze the impact. What would actually happen if that threat succeeded? How bad would it be, financially or operationally? And based on all that, you develop countermeasures, security controls, process changes, training to reduce the likelihood or impact of that threat.
Are there specific ways to do this? Frameworks?
Yeah, there are several established methodologies like PASTA, Stride, which Microsoft developed VAST, and others. They provide different structures and approaches, different philosophies almost, for systematically thinking through potential threats.
But they all share that goal of getting ahead of the game.
Exactly. What's powerful about threat modeling, regardless of the specific method, is that it forces a structured, proactive approach. It makes organizations systematically consider what could go wrong and how can we stop it before they get breached. It shifts the focus from reaction to prevention and resilience.
Wow, we've covered a huge amount of ground today. From the basics of what cybersecurity protects that CIA triad, confidentiality, integrity, availability,
Right, through to the different types of attackers, the hackers, the state-sponsored groups, the insiders.
and their massive toolkit of attacks network, application, host-based, social engineering, even physical and supply chain threats.
And we looked at how newer tech like cloud, mobile, and IoT bring their own unique risks.
Finishing up with how organizations try to get proactive using threat modeling.
It really underscores that cybersecurity isn't static. It's constantly evolving.
Hmm.
And understanding these threats, it's not just for the tech specialists anymore. It's really vital for everyone trying to operate safely in our superconnected world.
So wrapping this up, what does this all mean for you listening? Whether you're running a company, building software, or maybe just trying to keep your own online life secure.
Well, here's something to think about. Given how quickly these threats change and how sophisticated attackers are becoming, how do we as individuals, as organizations, move past just reacting when something bad happens? How do we genuinely build a culture where thinking about security proactively, continuously, is just normal?
Mm.
What's one small thing you could change today? Maybe being a bit more suspicious of that urgent email, double-checking a privacy setting, asking a question about a process that reflects that proactive security mindset.
A really important question to ponder. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the complex world of cybersecurity threats and attacks. Stay curious, stay safe online, and we'll catch you next time for another deep dive.